All right, lead heads, we are back. Talking Lead Show. Appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. This is 215, and I thought I had misnumbered episodes. Pepper was going through Google iTunes or one of those, and she's like, here's 214 and here's 212. You skipped an episode. Well, apparently they don't put them in order on those, so I'm right on target, man. That's what I get for listening to people. I was panicking, was going to have to go through and renumber all my episodes, but luckily that wasn't the case. So 214, last week's episode, we talked about the Glock 5, the new release. We had Corey Jones graciously join us and talk about all the new features of the Generation 5 Glock. So I hope you guys were able to check that episode, and if you didn't, go back, check it out. And you'll find it very interesting. There's been over 20 changes to that new Glock. Of course, we talked about the top 5, the most notable ones, during that interview with Corey. So go back, check that out. If you have any questions, shoot us an email at talkingled@gmail.com. We'll be happy to get some answers for you from Corey or one of their tech guys on that. So this week, we are going to continue our optics class, Optics 101, with Brady Speth of RITON USA. Welcome in, Brady.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, man. And Brady has brought a friend of his along, Charlie Melton. Charlie, welcome in.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Charlie is with Charlie Mike Precision. That is I guess you're a precision shooting school, right?
Yes, sir. We teach long range and pistol and carbine courses.
Okay. And you're based out of Texas?
Yes, sir. Normandy, Texas.
Normandy, Texas. And just so happens, Charlie is a retired U.S. Navy SEAL. How many years did you serve?
I did 25.
25 years. Thank you for your service. And you
Yes,
did several deployments, and you retired as a senior chief petty officer, right?
Yes, sir.
Very good. When did you retire?
I retired in April of 2015, so a couple of years ago.
Okay. So you're about the same time as One-Eye, Ron Bellin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The Reaper, we retired about the same time.
The Reaper, yeah. I went to his retirement. That was a good time. Were you there?
I wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people.
Ron's a great guy.
Yeah, he is. Oh, One-Eye. Even though he's got one eye, he's all right guy. Try not to hold that against him. But you have done a lot of training over the years, and you've trained some of the world's top snipers. You trained Chris Kyle, is that right?
Yes, sir. Among many other great snipers. I was a sniper for most of my time, most of my career, and then I also taught the sniper school and a couple other instructor billets throughout the years.
Very cool. So we couldn't have a better person on to go into our next level of our optics class. We're going to call this the intermediate. We started off with the beginner's class where we talked about the scopes and optics themselves, what a 1:4, a 5:25 by 56 means. We talked about first focal plane versus second focal plane. We're actually going to get into a little more of that as we talk about our next level here with Charlie and Brady. But before we do that, I hear that jackwagon train rolling in, guys. Bring that train in, Gunny.
Hoorah, Semper Fi, do or die, hold 'em high at 8th and I. It is time for the Talking Lead Jackwagon of the Week, so brace yourself, baby.
So watch your toes, guys. The Gunny's bringing the train in. It's getting ready to station. And I think we've got a couple of jackwagons this week that we're going to throw on the train. Brady, let's start off with yours. You had a pretty good one right there.
I was kind of looking to see what some funny laws are out there. There's a lot of antiquated laws when it comes to guns, but this one caught my attention as a perfect candidate for this segment. So apparently in Section 210 of the New York Agricultural and Markets Law, it prohibits any food or food product packed in a container in the shape of a firearm or for consumption from any package that is in the shape of a firearm. So the state of New York actually went to the point of putting on their books that it is against the law to have anything that's even in a package that resembles a firearm. And this isn't for anything except this is their agricultural and markets law.
This has
so
to do
we're
with
literally
food.
talking about food. That's it. No food in the state of New York can resemble anything that has to do with the shape of and or in packaging that resembles a firearm.
So is it the packaging itself, or can the food can't be in the shape of a firearm either?
It appears to be both. So
Both.
the food and or the packaging. Yep.
Wow. Because I know there are companies out there that I've received one. There's this chocolate company that makes Glocks, these huge big blocks of chocolate that are in the shape of a Glock, and it looks just like a freaking Glock. It's the same size and everything, and it even comes in a gun case, like a similar type gun case, which I thought was pretty cool. And I think I've seen like AKs and different other chocolate ones, but so those are illegal in the state of New York.
Illegal in the state of New York. And my favorite comment on here, somebody wrote, "If arrest is imminent, eat the evidence." So that's how ridiculous this law is you could literally, if for some reason you think you're really in trouble, just start eating, I guess.
Just start eating it, or they might shoot you otherwise. I guess.
Right? You can't put it on the shelves.
It makes you wonder how many man hours went into getting that passed. And
that's what kills me.
You would think New York has some bigger issues than to spend that time and money on than
to have an irrational fear that great that you have to ban anything that even looks like a firearm or a gun. I mean, that's ridiculous right there, man. That's like the epitome of the highest level of irrational fear that you could have.
I'm with Charlie on this one. I think about the backside of that is literally someone came up with this law and then spent the time to pass this through the New York State legislature to actually get this put into law. So I like to think of a lot of other places those man hours could have been used.
Right. I mean, not only the time, but the money. I'm sure that they dumped into that too. So that's crazy. I wonder if any other states have anything like that, because obviously there are companies, and Charlie was talking about one a minute ago too. There's liquor bottles that are in the shape of. I've seen that's the AK one I saw. It was a liquor bottle. It was vodka, I think it was.
Oh yeah, they got a bunch of different ones. They got the Tommy gun and some pistols, all kinds.
Yeah, so those they can't sell those in New York. That's ridiculous. Oh well, so some more ridiculousness. My jackwagon is there's an article and it's called The New American. I'm not familiar with this website. But you can go to thenewamerican.com. And Tuesday, September the 5th, 2017, which is today, Bob Adelman wrote this article. It says, anti-gun researcher frightened by how many guns Americans own. So fear right there. He's frightened because of the number of guns that are owned by Americans. So the article says the anti-gun group, The Trace, sent an email blast to its members last week alerting them that what it said was the danger of an overly and unnecessary armed American citizenry. Jennifer Macia, a member of the Team Trace, pulled some numbers from the Small Arms Survey, which I've never heard of that, which gauges gun stockpiles in the hands of civilians, law enforcement, and militaries around the world. She found that with an estimated 270 million firearms owned by everyday Americans, civilians own 70 times more weapons than all police and military services combined. Does that seem plausible to you guys?
I think there's a reason that since we won our freedom from the Brits, there's never been a war fought on our own soil, and I think that's one of the major ones. And he'd probably change his mind if someone ever tried to fight a war on our soil.
Right. Well, and that World War II, that's what Tojo said, wasn't it? Was it General Tojo that it's like the reason he didn't come on in was because behind every blade of grass is an American with a gun?
Yep. Exactly.
So I mean that's
our forefathers were some pretty insightful people when they wrote the Constitution.
Absolutely. And this survey, I mean, who knows? So this group, the Trace, it goes on in this article. It says, Macia is an editorial assistant at the New York Times and was a regular contributor to its anti-gun column, The Gun Report. So keep in mind this information is coming from an anti-gun establishment, this research is. Until it was shut down in 2014. Her source, the Small Arms Survey, is an international anti-gun group, so another anti-gun group getting information from an anti-gun research company. purporting to provide accurate statistics on all aspects of private gun ownership worldwide. Unfortunately, its reputation for accuracy has been tainted, which much of its reporting being challenged as misleading or just plain wrong. In this instance, however, the numbers Messia dug up from the outfit actually understated the concerns she expressed about how many firearms are owned by those everyday Americans. The real number isn't 270 million, not even close, but it's at least 100 million higher, and even that number is likely too small, given gun owners' propensity not to be forthcoming to pollsters asking questions about their gun ownership. So don't people who do polls anyway build in a degree of error factor anyway? And they factor that in. So she's factoring in, that's like being taxed on top of tax, you know. She's factoring in a fudge factor that's already been factored in. So again, these gun grabbers, their articles that they write, they're skewed. They didn't even cite their source. I mean, they put the name of the place, but they don't give like a link to it or anything like that. So ridiculous, frightened. You know, just like the law that New York passed because something's in the shape of a gun. Food, for God's sake, they're outlawing that. I mean, how far are these people going to go? Can't go much farther than outlawing food.
Well, you always have an option where you live. You can always change your residence.
You can, but then that's like giving up. You know, we need people in these states to fight the good fight, to call bullshit on these people, and you know, if they leave, then they're just going to take over and slowly, methodically, you know, we're going to lose everything. So don't give in to these bullshit research and scare tactics that they have. I was reading another article. I don't know, my system went down a second ago, and I had it pulled up. But there was an article. Let's see if I can find it. Morgan Griffith is dazed and confused on guns, and you know, I don't want to talk too much about politics, but sometimes this stuff just makes me mad. Andy Parker, advocate for common sense gun legislation. This is the Huffington Post, so you know this is going to be a damn left slant big time. So apparently this Morgan Griffith made he tried to compare the terrorists using cars as a weapon are the same as the plague of gun violence, which is what they quote here at the Huffington Post. So Griffith is too much of a coward to face his constituents in town hall meetings, so in lieu of that, he writes utter nonsense like this. Latest letter to the editor linking terrorist attacks by cars to gun control. Which I think he's probably talking about that thing that happened in, was it South Carolina, where the white supremacists were having a rally against the taking down of a Confederate statue or something.
Oh, yeah, and then the car come plowing through there.
Right, which I think we talked about last week or week before last. So, and I didn't read this guy's letter, so I don't know what comparisons he made, but these guys are firing back. It says his staff found some obscure story on Fox or Breitbart or guns.com and came up with this idea, but it says, I work closely with gun violence prevention groups, and what he says is simply not true. Our message is consistent, and I've seen no spike tied to the events in Europe. Probably talking about car violence spikes. Morgan makes a ridiculous false equivalent that terrorists using cars as a weapon are the same as the plague of gun violence. It's the same flawed whataboutism we see from him and his ilk time after time. Sure, a hammer or a knife or a toaster, for that matter, can be used to kill someone, but hammers and knives don't kill 90 people a day. As tragic as the terrorist incidents involving cars are, making that comparison is flawed and insulting. So there's no statistics on how many people that I'm aware of, there's no statistics on how many people are killed by hammers. Are you guys familiar with any statistics with those?
No, sir.
Yeah, so I'm not either.
Nope.
It says, but Morgan does make that comparison. His answer is to do nothing to save lives by keeping the wrong people from getting their hands on guns. there's already laws in place to keep wrong people from getting their hands on guns. A criminal is a criminal. If that's by definition, they're breaking the law. So no matter what laws you put in place, a criminal is going to break those laws. So, I mean, these guys are just pushing for more and more and more gun control, gun laws, just like New York, outlawing anything in the shape of a gun. I mean, that's how ridiculous this is getting. And then they go on to say that gun sales have plummeted since there's no Obama or Clinton boogeyman coming to abscond with all the guns. So the NRA, so they're accusing the NRA, had to invent another reason to stroke the paranoia of an already paranoid. If you watch and listen to the rhetoric coming from Dana Lash, Wayne LaPierre, they encourage violence toward anyone questioning Trump. How? Everything that I've heard come from Dana Lash is the opposite of that. Is she opposes violence. She points out that the violence is coming from the left wing, the left side. These gun grabber groups, they're the ones that are the violent group. When has Wayne, or what has Wayne LaPierre said to encourage violence? I don't get where he's coming off with this. I mean, he just comes out and says it. Again, fake news, making stuff up. It says the free press are literally in their crosshairs for exposing the nonstop lies. Sadly, many reading this post know the truth and simply don't care. Is because we know it's a lie. You're making crap up. So I had to point that out. Just more and more. I hate to say fake news because that's just such a catch term now, but that's what they're just making stuff up. They're just saying stuff to make it sound good, and so you'll lean toward their side of things. But we all know it's bullshit. All right, I'm getting off my soapbox now. I just that's why I don't read the news, is because it's all bullshit, and it's not just the left. Sometimes it's the right too that will embellish things. But for the most part, that goes back to what we're saying here on the show. Always be critical in your thinking. Don't just take a news source's word for it. Double, triple check, verify your facts. These groups that they're citing with these stats, they can be checked. You can Google them. You can find out information about them. So just be critical in your thinking and don't just automatically jump to conclusions.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's where most people just watch the news, and that's where they form their opinions. And
they take it as gospel and
lazy. Yeah, they're lazy. They just expect what they say is true. Which back in the day, in the 50s. Maybe that was true.
Not so much anymore.
Not so much anymore. No. People have agendas, and unfortunately, their words don't mean a whole lot when it comes to the media. So, all right, I'm off that soapbox. Let's talk about. Let's go to class. Class is in session. Class 101, Part 2. And today we're going to talk about what comes next. So you've got your scope, okay? You've gone out, you've decided that this is the power you need, this is the size you need, this is the mounting system you need, you're going to put it on this rifle, this gun. So how do you go about mounting your new scope, your new optic? So that's where we're going to start off with. So who wants to take the first step?
Yep. You want me to go first, Brady?
Yeah, I'll throw this right at Charlie because I do the hardware and making them and putting them together. This is his world and the actual application of using them. So.
And maybe one step, maybe what we ought to do is talk about, all right, you got your scope, now what mounts do you need? Maybe you need to decide, because I don't think we really talked about that, did we?
No, I don't think we did.
Okay. So how do you go about deciding which mount you need, Charlie?
So, yeah, that's a good place to start with tube size. And I can tell you from kind of my side of it. So the first thing you got to do is the main tubes, and Charlie has some other scopes for some long distance stuff he's doing with some 40 millimeter tubes. But the main consumer size tubes we have is a 1-inch tube, a 30 mil tube, and then now we're kind of getting into 34, 35 millimeter tubes. So the first things first is finding a ring that will actually match up with the size of the tube of the scope that you're mounting. The second phase of that is your mounting system. Does it have is it a rail system on top of your weapon? Some certain guns have a proprietary mounting system where the rings lock in and 90-degree turn when you put them in. So finding the actual right ring set that matches up to your rifle and to your scope. That's kind of part one, and then part two is being able to mount it to where you're getting proper eye relief, where the scope's actually positioned to where it's not interfering with the action of the gun, first off, and then second off to where it's actually mounted to so you have the ability to use it properly. So you have proper, and this can go into the actual application with Charlie, but so you have proper, where you're actually holding the gun, and eye relief goes to how far away the scope is from your eye. You need it far enough away you're not getting scope bit like we all did when we were youngsters and little scars on our foreheads, all the way to where you're getting a full field of view through the scope. So that's kind of the basics for that, but there's obviously a lot more that goes into that. You can buy quick detach rings, you can buy bolt-on rings, you can buy one-piece mounts. So a lot of that's preference, not just application-wise, but what do you want to use it for? We have everything from bolt-on rings to QD one-piece mounts, and anything in between. So I'll kind of throw it down to Charlie as far as the actual how you figure out the mounting and bore sighting and kind of the next steps.
Okay.
Yeah, so as far as the type of mount you want, it really depends on like what are you going to put that scope on your gun and leave it on there, or are you going to be swapping out thermals and night visions? If you're just going to put the scope on there and leave it, then I would recommend going with a hard mount system. Obviously, if you're going to be switching scopes and thermals and all that, probably find a good quick disconnect system that works well and can hold to zero pretty close. As far as mounting your scope, when you mount your scope, the most important thing is when you get on your gun, you want to get in a good comfortable position, make sure your body position's correct, which you're laying behind the gun with your spine parallel with the barrel. And then you want to put your face on the gun straight up and down. A lot of people you'll see cant their head. You want to keep that head straight up and down as you can when you're looking through the scope.
Okay.
So you want to get on your gun.
That's something I do. I cant my head, so straight up and down.
Yeah, you want to try to be straight up and down as possible so you're not creating shadows and stuff in your scope. But the key is getting on that gun and getting your head in a position where you're completely relaxed and you're not using any muscles. So you're not using any muscles in your neck to hold your head up or down or forward or back. You want to be able to lay on that thing like a pillow, and if you had to, go to sleep. And then once you get in that comfortable position, that's when you want to set your eye relief. So once you're in your comfortable position, you want to take that scope and slide it back to your eye to the point where you're completely relaxed, using no muscles. You open your eye up, and you should have a completely round circle with no shadow in it. Okay. So basically, that's kind of your sight alignment on a scope. So if you were shooting iron sights, you would be lining your front and rear sight up with the top of them even and equal amounts of light on both sides. With a scope, having that completely symmetrical round circle with no shadow in it, that's the same as lining your sights up. Okay. So that crosshair becomes your front sight. So once you get that done, and
so is this, would this be after you've put it on your rifle, you're doing that?
Yes, after you mount your scope base to the rail system or however you got it on there.
Yeah, let's back up to that part of it. So when you're putting on the base, the mount, how do you know where to position that? How tight to tighten it down? Is that something you're getting to, or am I jumping ahead? Is this just throwing it on there real quick and then getting that eye?
Well, before you put it on there, you want to get your head on that stock and get it in a comfortable position where you're not using any muscles. And then you want to mount your scope on whatever position on the rail, and you want to give yourself about at least an inch of movement where you can slide it back to set your eye relief. So that's the first thing you do is get your head in position, and then you'll stick the scope on there and then tighten down your base mounts, and then you'll loosen up your scope rings where you can slide the tube forward and back. But you want to be able to slide that thing back to get that completely round, clear picture.
Okay.
So yeah, once you do that, you're completely relaxed, and you might have to adjust that's why it's important to have a stock with an adjustable cheek well, especially if you're shooting long distance, because you want to be able to adjust that head where you're just laying your head on there and not using any muscles, and you can adjust it to where you have a completely round circle with no shadow in it.
Now, do you recommend that people just do this like through a vise? Are they putting it in a vise, or are they just putting it down like they normally would shoot on a shooting rest? Or
you put it down normally. Is there
some kind of brace you're using to hold the rifle level and steady?
If you're shooting off a bipod, you can use your bipod, monopod, or if not, you can put it in a vise or a little gun sled. But you want to get in position and get that thing set up, and then and that comes to the next thing is leveling your reticle. So it's not so much important you got the gun level when you're setting your eye relief. So you're just getting that completely round circle with no shadow in it. Once you get that set, then you want to use a level to make sure your gun is level when you level your reticle.
Okay, is there a tool for that?
Yeah, there's several different tools. My favorite's the old-fashioned. It's like a little plastic deal you put on the back with a rubber band around it, and then it has lines off to the side. So then you can just look through your scope, and it's already level with your rifle if you put it in one of the rail notches.
Right.
And then you can just rotate your scope until out of your peripheral you can line it up with the lines. That's one way to do it. And then they make scope level kits where you actually put the level on the rifle, make sure the rifle's level on a flat surface, and then you can take it and put it on top of the scope knob or flat surface on the scope. And then you just level them both that way. Okay. Another way to do it is you can hang a plumb bob, which is basically a line with a weight on it, about 25 yards away. Then you can get on your gun, make sure your gun's level, put a little level on the flat surface of it, and then you can rotate your scope to line it up with that plumb bob.
That's
another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing you can use is like the corner of a building. Obviously, you're assuming that they built the level, the building level.
Yeah. There's not been any erosion or
Don't
anything.
assume that.
But yeah, so you can use door jambs or the edge of a building or anything that's straight up and down and level.
I've used window sills before.
Yep.
Yeah, but then again, you're assuming that somebody built the building level, which isn't always the case.
True.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically once you get that mounted, you got your eye relief set and your crosshairs level, then you want to tighten everything down. And what I do is I'll go back through and Loctite all the bolts on my scope and mounts. Because there's nothing worse than doping your gun in and then your scope comes loose and you got to start all over.
Now, isn't there limits to how tight you need to go? And
yes, there's certain foot pounds, and they make little kits you can get with the torque wrenches for them.
Yeah.
Actually, Leopold makes a cool little kit called pickup sticks, I think, or fix-it sticks.
Fix-it sticks? Okay.
Yeah, it's a little kit, and it actually comes with the torque wrenches because your torque gets you bolted to the base, and the torque for your ring mounts is different.
Okay.
And actually, to jump on Charlie right there, that's one of the number one things we see when somebody will call into a customer service and say that their scope's not holding zero. And the majority of the time, we can track that back to the fact that they're either the mount isn't tight to the gun or the rings aren't tight to the scope. And so every time they shoot, they zero it, they recoil, the gun happens, and it jumps around on them, and then they complain their scope's not holding zero. Yeah. And the majority of the time, it has something to do with the way they mounted those, and it's not tight.
Gotcha. So your scope manufacturer, whoever you buy your scope from, and like you said, right on, you guys put how much torque that you need to do, right?
Yeah, for our mounting for all of our ring sets, there's on our website you can go and find the torque specs for each screw that you're supposed to be tightening it to.
Okay.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Brady, but it's pretty much the same for all scopes.
Yeah, most of the scopes can handle it. So if the ring manufacturer or something has something different, but yeah, honestly, most of them are somewhere in the ballpark between 15 and 25 inch pounds.
Yeah, and the important thing on that is when you're tightening those scope rings down, depending on whether you got a 4-bolt or a 6-bolt system, you want to, just like when you're putting your tire on your car, there's a pattern you want to tighten them in. So you do the old crisscross pattern, that way you're tightening it down nice and even and not tweaking the scope.
Good point. So what you're saying there is kind of, if you start at the top left, then go to the bottom right, and then go to another one of the corners and do the other corners like that. Now,
the old crisscross pattern.
Now, when you're doing front and back, do you do like all the front first and then the back, or do you alternate, do the top left, back right, and then go to your back mount and do the top left, back right?
Yeah, when I'm setting my scope, once they get the eye relief where they want it and everything's set up, I'll tighten, like on the front ring, I'll tighten the top right and the bottom, or the top left and the bottom right, and then I'll come back to the back and do the top right and bottom left just to hold it in place.
Okay.
And then it doesn't really matter which one you tighten first, as long as you got it locked in place.
Okay.
Just pick one and do one at a time.
Okay. So do 2 on the front, then 2 on the back, and then finish them off.
I'll actually do that, get it in place. Then I'll go ahead and snug all the bolts down, just get them snug, and then go back and set your torque on them.
Okay. And that's the ring mount.
Yep, the ring mount.
So what about the rail mounts?
Yeah, on your base mount, you want to go ahead and you can go ahead, once you get it set where you want it, you can go ahead and torque them down.
Okay, so you're doing those first, right? You're torquing those down first, and then you're going up and doing your rings, or does it
Yep.
matter?
Once you get your scope set up where you got some play in it, you want to be able to move it forward and back, or back at least back an inch, so you can set your eye relief. Once you got it in a good position for that, you can go ahead and torque those base mounts down, and then your remaining adjustment will be done with your rings.
Okay. And
So
is it the same no matter if you're doing a bolt rifle or a semi-auto, like a AR rifle?
Yep.
Same
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. One note on that is like where the bolts go in. Obviously, if you want to put those bolts probably or anything sticking out, protruding, try to put those on the opposite side of where your action is ejecting your round, so the rounds don't hit them or get caught on them.
Yep.
That's a good point, Brady. But on the magnifier for the red dot, isn't it designed to swing out to the right?
You could do either or, because technically you don't want it to block your off eye. So if you're a right-handed shooter, you want it to swing to the right, so then that way it doesn't block your left eye when you're shooting both eyes open with the red dot.
Okay, see, I did mine the opposite because I didn't want the shells coming out.
Your shells?
Yeah, I didn't want the shells coming out and hitting it.
It's designed to go either or, so there is no wrong way to do it.
Right, and I just switched it.
A lot of it just you kind of want to do opposite of, so that way when you have your red dot open, you're shooting your red dot, you have both eyes open. You don't have the magnifier kind of flopped in front of your left eye.
Yeah,
so
well, I can't see on my left eye anyway, so it doesn't matter.
There you go. Yeah. So you're good to go.
Yeah, it doesn't affect me either way. So
yeah. Yeah, one other thing I didn't mention is when you're setting your eye relief, you want to make sure your scope is on its max power.
Oh, okay.
So if you have a 25 power scope, you want to have it on 25 power when you're setting your eye relief.
That's a good point. I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
And
because that way, if you got no shadow on max power, then obviously it's going to get better as you dial the power down.
That makes sense. So I might need to go back and redo mine, but my 5x25 it was still fine on the high power. So I got lucky, I guess.
You're good then.
Well, yeah. And then the other thing is when you're focusing your crosshairs and your actual parallax focus, you want to make sure you when you focus that crosshair, like I said before, that crosshair becomes your front sight. So the entire time you're shooting, your focus is always on the crosshair. Just like shooting iron sights, your focus is on your front sight. When you're shooting a scope, your focus will be on that crosshair. So you want to make sure you got that crosshair crystal clear. You can see the numbers and tick marks in it like crystal clear. And then after you get that done, then you can adjust your scope focus, downrange focus.
Okay. And you said parallax focus. What is that? Explain that.
That's your main scope focus. The one is usually on the left side of your scope, or some of them will have them on the front too. Your reticle focus is usually located on the back of the scope.
So right there on the gun you're holding right there, Marty. So you have a fast focus eyepiece is on the back. So the back of the scope, the closest to the shooter's eye, there's a focus, and that's more for your actual eyesight and to correct for any eyesight issues people have.
That's basically your crosshair focus.
Yep. So you can turn that.
Okay. So we're just for reference, guys. We're on the 5x25 mod 7 right on. So okay.
And then so that's your crosshair focus. Then on your left side up there, on this particular scope, there's an illumination and a parallax control. They're both built into the same area. Right. So the inside one that has actually yardage numbers on it.
Yep.
That is your parallax control that he's referencing right now.
Okay, so what is that used for? Because as I was shooting this weekend, I saw that. I didn't make any adjustments to that because I didn't know what that would do. I didn't know what that was going to affect.
So the biggest effect it does is it for a lack of a better term, is you adjust, or lack of a better explanation, is you adjust yardages out. So the further out you go, it helps to continually keep the crosshairs, what Charlie was kind of referencing. It keeps your crosshairs and your picture both in focus. So parallax is actually the...
Go ahead.
What's that?
I was going to ask, so it helps with focusing?
Yeah, so it keeps everything clear as you zoom in and as you start looking further out. Parallax is actually, a good way to explain it is when you're driving down the road at 50 miles an hour, everything right outside your window is moving really fast, but everything really far away out your front window doesn't look like it's moving. Yeah. Yet you're still going 50 miles an hour no matter what. So technically they're all moving at the same speed. It's just that stuff next to you looks like it's moving a lot faster than the horizon does. Okay. So that is kind of a good example of what parallax is. So to try to control how different things look up close versus far away, we try to it's actually a slight little minute movements of the lenses that keep everything in focus. So that way you don't get distortion as you're changing yardages.
Yeah.
And you'll actually change that parallax. And you can see on there it goes from 10 to 15 to 100 to 300, all the way out to technically what's infinity. So you would adjust that depending on how far out you're shooting and how far out you're looking.
Okay. So as I was shooting, that would have, when I had it at max power at 25, when I was at, was that like 320 or something, I think was the furthest I went, that would have made it sharper. It would have.
Yeah.
Okay. I was afraid that it would have thrown off. I was afraid that it was going to throw off my sight where, I sighted it in at, 120 or whatever. I thought it might jack that up. So that's not the case.
No, that's just your focus. Basically, a simple way to put it is that rear one, that focuses your crosshair, and then that forward side one focuses your target.
Okay.
Easy way to put it.
Okay. Well, good. Now I know, because I was like, I know I could probably get that. I thought it might have been my eyes, but I could have got it even.
Yeah.
I mean, it was perfect. I mean, it looked great, but I could have made it even better, clearer with that. Okay. With the parallax.
That focus doesn't affect your zero at all.
Okay.
Although if they're not focused, it will throw your sight picture off.
Right. Okay. Now, do you find the parallax just on your higher powered scopes, or is that on the 1 to 4s also?
On a 1 to 4, it's a set parallax. We don't start actually having a parallax adjustment until we get to our 2 to 7 scope. Mainly because you're not looking far enough away to need it enough, say a 1 to 4 power. And there's also not as much distortion because you're only zooming in at 4 times versus some of the higher end scopes where you have your more zoom will actually distort it to where you need to be able to clean that up.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that answers my question about parallax. I mean, that's a good, that was something we needed to talk about because we hadn't talked about parallax yet.
And kind of from a scope manufacturing perspective, that's something that you do find in higher end or better made scopes. There's a lot of scopes out there kind of in that lower price point that doesn't include that. Mm-hmm. So that's something to look for when you're purchasing a scope. Is it's definitely an extra feature that helps when you're starting to shoot out past 200, 300, 400, 500 yards.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that helps with that. So not all scopes include a parallax adjustment. They set their parallax at 100 yards, and then you just kind of take what you get. So that's definitely a feature to look for when you're purchasing.
And RITON USA does have that.
We do, yeah. We do it in every scope we have, Mod 3 and up.
Very cool. All right, so Charlie, now what? What's next?
So pretty much that's it. Your scope's set up and you're ready to go.
So you're ready to go blast some targets.
The key points on that is making sure your head's completely relaxed on the stock. You're not using any muscles to hold your head up. Mm-hmm. And then you got a completely round circle with no shadow in it. Then make sure your crosshair is crystal clear, and then you can focus your target to where it's clear.
Okay.
Make sure your all your bolts are tightened down, and like I said, I Loctite all my stuff to make sure it doesn't come loose.
Yeah, and use the manufacturer specs on torque. Don't over torque it because you could do some damage.
You can definitely do some damage. Make sure you torque them to specs, and then use that crisscross pattern, and you're good to go. Ready to start sending rounds downrange. What's your preferred
mount?
My preferred mount?
Yeah. Do you like the QDs? Do you like the?
It depends. If I'm setting up something that's going to stay on there permanently, I like the non-QD mounts. Just for the fact that a lot of QD mounts, if you take them off and put them on, it changes your. You got to re-zero your rifle. On most cases, there's some companies that guarantee to hold it, but
yeah.
But yeah, if I'm going to be swapping, if I got a gun, I'm going to be putting night vision on or thermals, then it's very handy to have a QD mount.
Yeah. But you're known for your long distance precision shooting, and by the way, aren't you going for a world record?
Yes, sir. At the end of the month, I'm going to go on for 4,900 as of now, unless somebody breaks that before the end of the month.
4,900. Woo.
Then I'll have to go a little further.
That's 4,900 yards, y'all.
Right.
So
clarify that.
How far is that in miles?
Well, 3 miles is 5,260, so it's about a little over 2.
What kind of scope are you using for that to see that target?
I have a 52 power scope.
A 52 power.
Yeah, about an hour. And like Seth was talking about earlier, like the tube size. That's the one he was saying has a 40 millimeter tube. Yeah, it lets a lot of light in, and it's good for shooting out that far. I mean, even when you get out 3 miles, it's not like you can really see the bullet hole or anything. But
right. What size
Then
target are you shooting at that far?
We're going to do a 48-inch target.
Okay.
But hopefully we'll hit it in the middle.
Hopefully. Now, is that part of holding the records? You got to hit in the middle, or you just got to hit the target?
I think you just got to hit the target.
Okay.
There's really no stipulations on it.
So before we get into sighting in, I'm intrigued by this 4,900 yard shot. What rifle are you using? What kind of rifle are you using and ammo?
I'm using a 408 Tejas. So it's basically like the Shy-Tech, but souped up.
Mm-hmm.
Probably gets another 400 or 500 feet per second.
Nice.
And then obviously there's a couple of different attachments you got to put on your scope to get the minutes of angle, the come-ups. There's different ways to do that. That's one thing with the scope. Like when you zero your scope at 100 yards, like say you got 80 minutes of angle adjustment in your scope, you're pretty much wasting like the bottom half. So that'd be a good thing if somebody could invent a scope where you don't waste the bottom half of those minutes. So yeah, you can fix that by putting a rail on there, like a rail with adjustment, where you can get another 120 minutes of elevation. And then Talking HQ makes a little periscope of that, but you can put on the front of your scope, and that'll give you can adjust it 200 to 400 minutes of angle elevation. So.
Which is crazy.
So basically, you're aiming straight up and then dropping that bullet in.
There's a pretty big arc to it. Yeah.
Yeah, when I shot the 3 mile shot, we didn't get all our parts in, so I didn't have that rail. So yeah, I was basically aiming at clouds in the sky.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Yeah, how it's around.
What's the velocity you're getting on the 408?
I think it's coming out about 3,200 feet per second.
Okay. I'm sure you're using some kind of specialized ammo, right?
Yes, it's a custom loaded ammo, and they actually have to turn the brass down, turn down all their projectiles.
And what's that mean for our listeners? Tell them what that means. Turn it down.
So there's not a whole lot of 408 projectiles available. So basically, they have to custom take and turn down the projectile on a lathe for each round.
So they're cutting it. What round are you taking and cutting it down?
I believe he's using the 408, or he uses a 50 cal and then turns it down.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yep. And then he has a lot of other little special things he does to it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which that's your secret, right? That's your secret sauce. Can't talk about that.
Oh
yeah. So do you get the Guinness Books of World Record out there while you're doing this?
No, we just got a bunch of film crews and just a bunch of people to confirm it and videotape it.
And they accept that? They don't have to have a person out there for that?
No, I don't think. I mean, it's not like a Guinness World Record. It's just
so you're not going for the Guinness? You're just...
nowadays it's just social media.
I got you.
Yes. So we'll have 3 or 4 people confirm the distance, and then it'll all be videoed. And
now, is there
everything's legit?
Certain climate that you want to be in while you're doing this? Is a better part of the country to do this in than another?
Yeah, I think elevation will help. We're doing this one up in Salt Lake City, so we'll have a little elevation, so the air will be a little thinner. So I think that'll help out.
And are you shooting level for the most part? Does it have to be level, or are you shooting downhill? Are you shooting uphill?
Yeah, we're going to shoot level on that one. The 3 mile shot we did, we were at sea level, but the rounds were coming up about 6 to 20 yards short. So we're loading some hotter rounds, and we're going to try it again.
Right. But to be considered for the world record as far as level goes, I mean, you got to be level with the target. It can't be below you or above you, or you want it as low.
I don't think it matters as long as you got the distance.
Okay. So that doesn't come into play then as far as your angle of the target. Okay.
No, as long as you can see the target, which is pretty hard to do.
I would think shooting downhill would give you an advantage. I don't know.
Yeah. Not really.
Not really.
Gravity still works the same way. It just changes your zero a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, when you're shooting angles, until you break 30, 45 degrees, it doesn't really affect it too much. So.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about sighting your gun. So you got your mount on. It's snug, secure. Got it turned the right way, leveled out. So let's say we're shooting. I mean, most people are shooting the 5.56. Let's talk about sighting in a 5.56. So what's our next step?
Yeah, so once you got everything mounted and you're ready to go, the important part is using the same ammo. Obviously, everything changes, which is important to keep a shooter's log. So when your temperature changes, your elevation, what part of the world you're shooting in, all that changes your your dope on your gun. So it's very important to keep a shooter log. So every time you shoot in a different condition or different location, you want to log down your dope and wind and all that stuff.
Define dope.
Dope is basically what your come-ups would be out to I do mine every 100 yards. Some people get down to every 50 yards. But basically, you go shoot your yard lines in those conditions, and then you write down what your come-ups are. And like I said, those come-ups are going to change depending on the weather, the humidity, temperature, where you're at in the world, elevation, all that changes it, where the light's coming from. Everything affects the bullet flight. So that's why it's important to keep a logbook every time you shoot and log that stuff down. And then hopefully when it comes and you got to make that first shot hit, you can look back through your logbook and find some similar conditions that you've already shot in, and that'll get you pretty close or on target.
So where do you recommend starting sighting it in at? So now, keep in mind, this is a 101 class. This is beginners, just people.
I mean, I'll sight my rifles in at 100 yards. And that way, I mean, between 100 and 300 yards is really not that much of a change. I mean, it's like a 2 or 3 inch difference normally on most rounds. So if you want, you can sight in at 200 or 300. You can zero your gun at 200 or 300 yards. And then if you're shooting less than that, you just got to aim a couple inches lower or higher. But I'll sight all mine in at 100 and then write down the elevation changes every 100 yards. And that way, if you're hunting, whenever you laze your target, you can look through there and dial your scope in.
Okay.
And it should be on target.
So let's talk about that, the hunting rifle versus your, because most people will have like a bolt action, gun that they're going to take hunting. Does it differ, as far as that goes, like a 270 versus the 5.56 or 223? Same principles apply?
Yeah, same principles, but obviously the ballistics on the bullets are a little different.
Yeah.
And if it's a hunting rifle, like most people that hunt, if you're not shooting past 300 yards, you can zero your gun at 100 or 2 or 3, and then you can just shoot holds. You don't really need to dial in for that close. When you start getting down past 500-600 yards, that's when you want to dial your dope in.
I was going to say on that too, is most of our, from the optics manufacturer side, most of our optics come for hunting or cap turrets anyways. Kind of what Charlie was saying is you're zeroing at 100, 200, 300 yards, and then you're really just using the lines within your reticle for holdovers, because you either don't have enough time to dial it in, or you're really not taking shots out. Like he was saying, you're not taking long enough shots, so you're not actually ever going to your elevation turret and dialing in any adjustments. You're just using holdovers.
Kentucky windage?
Pretty much.
So start at 100. And now a lot of places, though, they've got ranges, indoor ranges that our subscribers, listeners will go to, and they obviously don't go out to 100. 50 usually is, kind of average. If somebody's sighting in at 50, what do they need to take into account? Let's say they get out, they go hunt, they sight in at 50. What kind of performance can they expect, let's say, from a 270 if the shot that they've got is about 100?
So if you sight in at 50, obviously when you shoot at 100, you're going to be hitting a little low.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at. So you sight in at 50, you can expect that the further back you're going to be hitting lower. Is that right?
Yep. Because as you go out, the bullet rises. You're going to have to dial your scope up.
Okay. So what's next? You're the teacher, man. Come on, teach. Teach me something. We're sighting in. I mean, is that it? Is it that simple?
Well, you can't. There's nothing can replace going out and shooting the yard lines every 100 yards or every 50 yards. You can. They got all the computer programs and stuff, and those are pretty accurate nowadays. So once you get your 100 yard zero, you can go on those computers and get pretty close, and they work pretty good out to 1,000. But once you get past that, like I said, when the conditions change and all that, the computers take account for most of that. So the one thing the computers can't do is call wind, and that's kind of an art. You got to just experience and know what to look for, teach you how to do that, and then keeping that logbook and logging your rounds and what your wind calls are. That's how you get better at calling wind. And then you can look back through your dope book and see what the wind was doing and see what your adjustments were, and then how far it moved the bullet.
What are things to look for to help gauge wind as say you're out in a field, and you got a 300-yard target out there. What are you looking at to gauge the wind?
Yeah, at 300 yards, you got to have a hell of a wind to really affect your bullet that much.
Okay.
The wind don't really start affecting it too much till you get out to the 500-600 yard range.
Okay. I'm at 500 yards. Let's say I'm at 500 yards.
Yep. The best thing to use is like the vegetation around you. You can look at the grass, the leaves on the trees, the mirage, which is the heat coming off the ground. If it's hot enough out there and you're getting a mirage, you can look at that. But a lot of times when people use the mirage, they don't realize like you might be seeing the mirage 100 yards away when you're shooting at 500. So you usually see the closest mirage. So it's not a very good gauge. The best thing to do is find some vegetation at the yard line you're shooting, and then to see what the wind's doing. And then you can always have wind changing directions on the way to the target too. So once you get that first round, it's just very imperative that you see where that first round hits to make adjustments for your second round hit.
Right. What if you're shooting over water, across water? Is that same principles with that, or is there a different way you need to shoot?
Yeah, same principles. And actually with water, you can use the chop, which way it's wind or splashes, and it's obviously easy to see your first round if you're shooting over water.
Right.
It's easy. That's easy spots right there.
Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of places will have like ponds and things like that. Some of these fields that I go and hunt in, there's ponds.
Yeah.
Maybe a river or something that I'm shooting across.
Yeah, obviously, if you're shooting early in the morning or evenings, you're going to get you get fog and stuff coming up there. It could definitely impede your vision on the target.
Yeah, and I assume fog would affect your travel also, your bullet travel.
Yeah, it's kind of the humidity thing. So
A little thicker air. Yep.
Cool. So what else do we need to talk about as far as sighting and mounting goes? Does that pretty much cover everything, or we need to talk about something else?
I think that covers it up to kind of, honestly, for the majority of people shooting that are only 50 yards indoor, 300 yards outside. If you're not actually getting out there and getting time behind the rifle, that this is just repetition. I've been shooting for over 25 years now, but it wasn't until recently that I started meeting some of these guys where now I'm keeping logbooks. Now I'm actually like keeping data on different shots. And that has a huge difference in it now, whereas before it was exactly what Charlie said. You shoot, you see your miss, you Kentucky windage it, and you have a second shot hit. Where it's nice actually now stepping up and using some of the data that I have from our different rifles and our different scopes and having first shot hits right away is kind of nice.
Right.
Yeah, the most important thing, learn how to shoot good, is we teach the 7 principles of marksmanship. So the way you become good at shooting is you practice those 7 principles. You practice them correctly and perfect every time, and then through repetition and perfect practice, you end up building muscle memory. And muscle memory is what you want when you're shooting, because muscle memory, that when you're under stress or whatever, your body automatically reacts, so you're not really thinking about what you're doing. The way you build muscle memory is through perfect practice and repetition.
And what
so
are
the
your
more you shoot?
What are your 7 principles?
The 7 principles of marksmanship is your body position is 1, and then your grip, and then sight alignment, sight picture, trigger control, follow through or second sight picture, and breathing. So you practice all 7 of those correctly and practice them perfect every time you pull the trigger. You basically want to set up a mental checklist. So every time you're shooting that gun, you're going through your mental checklist, making sure you're doing everything the same every time, and you're doing it correctly.
What's your preferred way to shoot at distance? Laying down?
Yeah, the most accurate position to shoot from is the prone, which is laying down behind your rifle. That's the most stable, accurate way to shoot.
Are you do you subscribe to the school of laying straight behind it or at 45-degree angle?
Yes, a lot of people, I know, even the Army men, those little plastic Army men you get, they have them laid down
I think they come from Israel.
Right?
I think that's where those are made in Israel.
Well, if you look at it like this, when a gun shoots, barrel whips, so that barrel is whipping straight up and down. So your body position is very important in what happens when that gun fires. So if you're laid off at a 45-degree angle, especially if you're shooting higher caliber weapons, when that round goes through that barrel and it's lifting up, if you're at a 45-degree angle, then you're not controlling that recoil straight back. So it's basically every time it recoils, it's going to go off to your right side. So it's very important that you're straight behind the gun. You're not influencing that gun at all. You're not pushing on it with your grip. You're straight behind it. That way the recoil's coming straight back, and it's not causing that muzzle to move left or right at all.
Why do those crazy Israelis do the 45?
I don't know where that came from.
You don't know where that came from? They just wanted to be different.
I mean, you can get away with it if it's a lower caliber weapon, but it's just better to be straight behind the gun. Keep your spine parallel with the barrel.
All right, so that pretty much wraps up our part 2 of 101. Before Charlie gets too much into talking about the holdovers and that type of stuff, windage, that's going to be our part 3. That'll be 101 part 3 of optics, and we'll get Charlie back and we'll get into those 7 principles and talking about the windage and the holdovers and all that for you guys. But now it's time for the Talking Lead
Facts to fight the myths.
And I know in our part 1 we talked about first focal plane versus second focal plane, but Charlie's got a little more on that for us. So Charlie, talk about that as far as distance marksmanship shooting goes.
Yeah, back when I went through sniper school, which has been the early 90s, second focal plane was always used for distance shooting, and I kind of agree with it. Now everybody seems to want to shoot first focal plane, which is fine. It works good out to 1,000 yards. But I think when you start getting beyond 1,000 yards, that depending on your reticle and the size of it, you get to that point where you can't aim as precise. Your reticle ends up covering up more of the target than it needs to.
And then Brady, just recap our listeners on first focal plane versus second focal plane, what the difference is.
Yeah, so second focal plane, what Charlie was just talking about, the target is magnified as you zoom your scope in, but your reticle stays the same size no matter what your zoom is set on. And at first focal plane reticle, your target and your reticle zoom, and they maintain the same ratio throughout the entire zoom range. So it appears that the reticle grows as you zoom in.
Yeah.
What's really happening is the target and the reticle are zooming at the same ratio, so they stay the same throughout, no matter what magnification you're on. A couple key features of that are your set holdovers in a second focal plane are the most accurate at your highest power. So if you have a 25 power scope that's a second focal plane, it's going to be the most accurate at 25. And then, but at a first focal plane, it has the same accuracy, same ratio throughout the entire zoom range.
Right. So what Charlie was pointing out was that the second for long distance is better because that reticle, your dot, could cover up your target.
Yeah, so unless the reticle is designed properly where it's actually small enough to not, as it grows to the zoom range, to not actually cover up your target at distance.
Yeah.
That's kind of where our problem lies, is some reticles are too big to start with.
Yeah.
So then as they maintain that ratio through the zoom range on a first focal plane, by the time you're looking out there at that tiny little target at 1,500 yards away, your reticle's taking up the entire target, so it's hard to be precise.
Yeah.
With that second focal plane, the reticle stays that same size no matter what, but your target will get bigger and bigger and bigger. So your reticle actually takes up less of the target as you zoom in because your reticle stays the same size, but the target grows.
Is there a way to do both in a scope?
Not that I'm aware of. It has to do with where the reticle is actually located, either before or after the zooming mechanism.
Uh-huh.
So you would have to have 2 different types of reticles, or reticle essentially would have to be placed in 2 different places inside the tube.
Man, if you could design a scope that you could switch between first and second focal planes, huh?
Right? It might be,
And
might be out of something.
And get the full 80 minutes of travel without having
Right.
to the bottom out.
I'm taking notes here, fellas. Keep talking.
There you go. So that's a good fact to fight, because a lot of people, just automatically think first focal plane's the best way to go, but there's certain instances, like you're saying, especially when you're at distance and you're 500 or more, to where that first focal plane could actually obscure your precision.
Right. And my kind of opinion on that is, one, if you're going to run a first focal plane, the the reticle needs to be designed correctly. You can't just throw any type of reticle in there and expect it to work as a first focal plane reticle, mainly in the size of it. And two, get some training on it. There are a lot of really good features to a first focal plane reticle, as far as ranging and range estimation that you can do with it, because it does maintain that aspect ratio through the entire zoom range. But most of the people out there asking for a first focal plane don't know how to properly use it. They haven't been trained on it. They don't actually know why they have it. They just like it. They definitely have become in vogue in the last 3 or 4 years. I still predominantly shoot with a second focal plane, even though we offer first focal plane. It's just what I'm comfortable with. So a lot of it has to do with kind of how you're trained and what your comfort levels are. But and then picking the proper scope for the application, I think, is a big part of it.
Yeah, very good. Good fact to fight the myth, Charlie. Appreciate that. We've got a second one that I guess Charlie would be best to, and we'll let Brady set it up.
So I'll introduce this one. So Charlie is, what are you, Charlie? 6'4",
6'5",
6'5", 2 something. Not a small man. So whenever I introduce Charlie to any of my friends or anybody that I know within the industry, the first thing, and I actually think one of the guys that works for me, the first thing out of his mouth was, "Holy shit, how do you hide this guy?"
Yeah.
And I think the first, and so this is a really good one for this segment, is it really isn't about the size of the person. Everybody thinks that a sniper has to be, 5'6", 120 pounds, so they can kind of hide, but it's not. It's more of the practice of, and I'll let Charlie definitely dig into this, but it's the practice of camouflage, the practice of movement, and discipline of movement that really come into that, not really the size of the guy. So, right. But yeah, that's the first one I always get. It's like, no way, there's no way he's a sniper. This dude's 6'5". So I'll throw that at Charlie though.
Yeah. So the key principles of stalking, obviously, dead space is your friend. So dead space, just to explain to guys that don't know what it is. Like say I'm walking towards you and there's a tree in between us. If I get behind that tree and stay behind it where you can't see me and walk towards you, then you won't be able to see me. So you can use that tree as dead space and walk. You can pretty much walk right up on somebody without them seeing you if you stay behind it. You can use the same with elevation and all that too. So between dead space and then backdrop, you always want to have a backdrop behind you that's bigger than you are, obviously.
Yeah.
When you set up your final firing positions and stuff. But yeah, your size really doesn't matter. The biggest thing people catch when you're in stalking is movement. So you got to be very disciplined in your movement, and then using that dead space and backdrop. And you could hide a bus if you got enough of both of those.
Well, I mean that's proof in the pudding with yourself. I mean, like you said, you're 6'4".
6'5", 260.
6'5", 260. Of course, so you probably weren't 260 back in the day, were you?
No, I was probably around 220, 240. Nice. I was actually 108. When I went to SEAL training, I was 180 pounds.
Are you serious? Oh my God, dude! You could have. You definitely could have hid behind a blade of grass.
Yeah, no kidding. That's pretty good.
Exactly.
But I mean, like we said earlier, you trained Chris Kyle, which Chris Kyle was another big dude as well.
Oh, yeah, there's quite a few big guys that are snipers.
But that was another fact to fight the myth that we had a while back with, I think Ron was on the show, is when people think of Navy SEALs, they think of little 5'10", 150 pound, 160 pound dudes. But damn, I mean, you, Ron Bellin, SEAL 1, Dwight Settles.
Yeah, Marcus.
I mean, you got some WWF dudes here,
both
man.
Big dudes. Yeah, exactly.
Well, we come in all sizes from 4 feet to 6'5".
Right.
Right.
Because there's all kinds of different missions. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the Smurf crew too. So.
The Smurf crew. Jason,
I think that's a good one right there. Is the fact that it's not a one size fits all. It has nothing really to do with your size. It's more of probably. Yeah. I won't dig into it because I don't know, but it's the mental side of it more than the physical. I think in a lot of aspects. So that's kind of one of the facts to fight the myth right there. Is there isn't a one size fits all for Navy SEALs or any job.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely 90% mental.
Yep.
Well, very good. So those are two good facts to fight the myth, guys. Appreciate that. Charlie, let's talk about you a little bit. This is first time on the show, and Brady's been through this. We've got a line of questioning that we ask our new guest, and I'm going to hit you with those. So,
yes, sir.
What your earliest recollection of shooting a firearm?
I think I got my first gun when I was 4 years old. It was a 22. My uncle taught me how to shoot. Between my uncle and grandpa, and used to take me hunting all the time.
Nice. Now, do you still have that? You still have that one?
I do still have it.
Nice.
So I started shooting at a young age, and I've always been into guns and blowing stuff up. So being a SEAL was a perfect fit job for me. I was one of the lucky people that got to do what they love to do for most of their, or a good portion of their life.
Right. So
and now I'm continuing on with teaching shooting now. So
obviously you were in the military, you're in the Navy. You went in at 19, is that right?
Yes, sir.
When did you know you wanted to be a Navy SEAL?
Probably when I was like 8 years old.
Really?
My dad was in the Navy for like 8 years. He wasn't a SEAL. He was a jet engine mechanic, but he had a couple buddies that were team guys. And they used to come over to the house and tell Vietnam stories all the time. So I think from hearing those stories and stuff, it kind of fit what I was interested in. And I think I decided way back then I definitely wanted to be some type of special forces. And I ended up going with the SEALs because I thought they did the coolest job and do a little bit of everything.
Right. Now, have you met Gary O'Neill?
Gary O'Neill.
You hadn't met Gary yet? He's a...
yeah, I think I did.
Yeah, former Special Forces dude. Green Beret? Is that what he was? Green Beret?
Yeah,
yep, he was on the Army side.
I think I met him at the Axelson grand opening.
Okay.
Was he there for that?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
I think so. He was staying at the
I think so.
He's been on the show before, but he's a former, he did Vietnam, and he's been all kinds of, he's a crazy dude. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, he's funny. I sat around, had some beers with him in Mendon, Nevada.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were staying at John Wayne's old house for that weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a good time.
When it comes to pop culture, what is your go-to, whether it's a movie, a TV show, video game? I know you don't play video games. Magazine, whatever it may be, that's firearms related.
Yeah, I'm a big movie guy, so I watch a lot of movies, but I know just classics, anywhere from Predator to Platoon to all the old Vietnam movies, Hamburger Hill, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
What's your favorite of those? If you were to sit down and watch one right now, which one would it be?
I'd say one of my favorite movies is Tombstone.
Tombstone, man. We get a lot of that. Didn't you say that, Brady?
That was my answer.
That was your answer?
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite movies, and a lot of one-liners in there.
Yeah, there is.
There's a lot of good ones.
How are you with the wheel gun?
I've actually been practicing with them a lot. I love lever action and the old cowboy guns. But yeah, I've got a few of those.
Cool.
But, I definitely enjoy shooting them. Not as good as I need to be, but I've been practicing with them.
If bucket list gun, what's your next bucket list, whether it's a gun or piece of kit that you got to have, want to have?
Got to have or want to have?
Got to have, want to have, yeah.
I don't know. I think I pretty much got everything there is. A thermal. You know what I want is a thermal that can mount on a or not a standalone, but mounts on the front of your scope.
Okay.
Where you don't have to take your scope off, you can just mount it in front of it.
Okay.
Right. And they're really expensive on the civilian market nowadays, but that'd probably be my next toy I'd love to have.
Anything in the works from RITON with thermal or night vision, Brady?
We do not. No, we haven't ventured down that road yet.
Okay.
I know the man to go talk to though when I need some ideas.
There you go. Well, I know you guys are new company, relatively new, 4 years now. But I mean, for your selection and variety that you've got out now, you guys have done a hell of a job. So I'm not pushing you. But
It's just a gentle nudge.
Can't wait. Yeah, can't wait for that night vision and thermal to come out.
Right.
So laws be damned, money be damned. What would you like to own? No limits.
Right.
Like
there
could be a vehicle. It could be a vehicle. Could be a gun. Piece of kit.
For me?
Yeah, for you. Laws be damned, money be damned, price is no object.
I would love to have a 40-acre ranch with a nice house and little shooting facility, and
on that ranch, what would you have? Laws be damned, money be damned to shoot.
I would obviously have a nice setup house for entertaining and for guests to stay at, and then obviously I'd have some horses and dogs and probably a few cows.
Yeah.
Garden.
Yeah.
Self-supportive.
right? So I'm going to ask it again. Laws be damned, rules be damned, money be damned. What gun would you own? I'll just come out and say that.
Me?
Yeah, what firearm would you own?
Well, I already have it, the 6.5 Creedmoor. I love it. I have a couple different ones, but my new signature rifle that Axelson just built, it's an AR 6.5, and it's a pretty impressive gun. You can shoot out 1,500 yards with an AR.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
It shoots probably a half minute group.
6.5 Creedmoor.
Yep, and I'm a big fan of the 338 Lapua also.
Like that one too. Yeah.
And then if you want to reach really far out, the 408, the Tejas, I just had one of those built, and that's the long distance gun.
Nice. What about if you could own a vehicle?
A vehicle?
Yeah.
Would,
like a militarized vehicle. What would you?
I would take a truck.
A truck. A truck.
Yeah, I spent many hours riding around in Humvees and RG-31s and all that, and a Humvee is the largest, smallest vehicle ever made.
Right.
So
it looks huge. It looks huge, but I barely fit in it with all my gear on.
Right. So you wouldn't want a tank or a F-18 or anything like that?
An F-18 would be cool. Actually, that's my bucket list is to get my pilot's license. I actually want to do my fixed-wing helo pilot license.
Oh, you're going to go with the helo.
Yep. I've always wanted to fly helicopters. So.
I always wanted to fly the Airwolf. Remember that TV show, Airwolf?
Oh, yeah. Stringfellow Hawk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
pretty good.
I thought that was the coolest freaking thing ever, was that helicopter.
That was a badass helicopter.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm sure they've come out with a more modern. I mean, that was, more than 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I still don't think they have a helicopter that does Mach 2.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think so.
Too many moving parts on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So if you could spend the day at the range with anybody or any group of people, whether they're fictional, real, dead, alive, who would it be? If you go back in time.
I'd spend the day at the range with anybody. It's my favorite place to be. So
just anybody, huh? Just come on out.
Yeah, just good people that want to learn.
Very good. So
teaching's probably one of my favorite things to do. So I love teaching people.
But if you could just pull somebody from history or maybe from fiction, who would you like to bring on the range?
Probably Doc Holliday or Wyatt Earp.
You and Brady, y'all must be best buddies
right?
or something, man.
I'm pretty sure I said Wyatt Earp too. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think you said the OK Corral, the gang from the OK Corral.
Doc Holliday seemed like he'd be a fun person to hang out with.
He does in the movies anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. So Charlie, talk about your school real quick and how people can get in touch with you and schedule some time with you on the range.
Yeah, we have our website. You can visit charliemikeprecision.com. We have our schedule on there, where and when we're training. We have a range here in Normandy, Texas. You can come out here. Obviously, that's probably the most cost-effective. But we also travel anywhere in the U.S. So if you got a range you can shoot at and book 6 or more people, obviously you have to cover our flight and lodging when we're there. But we teach long-range pistol and carbine courses, and we can travel anywhere and do it as long as you got a range. We can bring targets. We just need land and a place to set up a 1,000-yard range for the long-range stuff.
Cool. And your rates and everything are on the site, or do they got to call you to get rates?
Yeah, they can call for rates.
Okay.
Obviously, we can work with people on rates.
And do you have a local place there in Texas that you do training?
We do. We have a private. So my partner Philip Hobson he's got a 1,000-acre ranch right down the street from our house, and we built a 1,000-yard range out there, and we just finished up our pistol and carbine range. So it's coming along nice. So it's a nice setup, beautiful range, nice rolling green grass hills.
And how many day course is that?
Our long range course is you can do it in one day, but it's a long day, so it's better to break it down into 2 days.
Okay.
It's a more relaxed atmosphere, and then eventually we're going to offer exotic extreme adventures, so you'll be able to come out if you want to. We'll have a menu you can choose from. You'll be able to shoot mini guns or do an explosive breacher course or do thermal night vision hunts. Or we have a ton of exotic animal ranches out here, so you can pretty much shoot anything here that you can shoot in Africa.
Cool.
So we're
I bet
setting
that's
up
expensive as hell.
yeah, those animals definitely get pricey, but it's cheaper than going to Africa to do it.
Right.
That's true. So if I wanted to come do your 2-day long range course, what am I looking at price wise?
For the long range course, it's
Yeah.
about $1,000 for the 2-day course.
Okay. And do you supply the guns and the ammo and all that with that?
That we do not supply the ammo. We can supply the guns if you want, and we do have ammo available to buy on site.
Okay. About how many rounds are we talking about for this 2-day course?
For the 2-day course, it's about 200 rounds.
Okay. So about 100 a day?
Yep, about 100 a day. Well, the first day is, when we're breaking into 2 days, the first day is basically gun set up and getting your 100-yard zero. That's probably the most time consuming is teaching the class and then getting that mental checklist set up and then obviously getting your gun set up.
Right.
We have a max of 10 people per class just so we can get some one-on-one time. And then we'll split you up. So you'll split your partner up with another guy. You'll shoot 1,000 yards while the other guy spots, and then you flip-flop. Because to be honest with you, you probably learn more spotting than you do shooting.
Right. So if I got a 308, is that a good rifle for 1,000 yards, 20-inch 308?
Yep, 308. You can shoot out to 1,000 with it. Obviously, it's not as good as a 6.5 Creedmoor, but
Yeah.
you can definitely do it.
Okay. What kind of load do you recommend for that 308?
For the 308,
Mhm.
anything in the boat tail hollow points, like 168 grain, those are pretty good, pretty accurate.
About 168. That's what I was shooting this past weekend. I was shooting the Freedom Munitions Bore Buster 168 grain 308.
Oh, nice.
And it was really accurate. I don't know if you can see this or not. Pull my camera up there.
Oh yeah, that's a good. Is that 100 yards?
Yeah, that one was at like 115. That was when I just threw the scope on it and was just seeing where it was at. That was my first 3 shots.
Yeah, that's a good gun, good shooting gun. The 308's a good round. 1,000 yards, you're probably maxing that thing out.
That was at like 320. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yep, definitely probably a half-minute gun or less.
Right in there. Of course, that's me shooting too. You know, it could shoot better than that.
That ain't bad shooting.
That's just,
No, not at all.
That's me shooting right there. But you guys can go to our Instagram and Facebook page. I've got those pictures posted there. That was me taking the Nordic Components 308 20-inch with the RITON USA's 5x25 Mod 7. And,
Nice. Yeah, we're actually working on doing a 16-inch 6.5 right now. AR.
Oh, nice.
Really?
I did some shooting on. I shot the prototype a couple weeks ago, and yeah, we're shooting a under 10-inch group at 1,000 with it. So it's pretty impressive for a 16-inch barrel.
That's a 16-inch barrel at 1,000, huh?
Yeah. So yeah, basically the Finnish military is looking for a gun they can do close quarters combat with and still shoot out to 8 to 1,000 yards.
Nice.
So we're working on one of those right now.
Yeah, so you guys also design rifles?
Yeah, Charlie Mike Precision doesn't do it right now. I'm working with Axelson Tactical.
Oh, okay.
They built my signature rifle, and
Working
then I
with
have
Jeff?
a couple other guys. Yeah, with Jeff, and then Brad Stair with Performance Rifles. He's from Texas, but he's out of Utah right now.
Yeah.
He obviously he's a very knowledgeable guy when it comes to guns and ammo.
Very cool. Now you're coming to Big 3 with Modern Spartan Systems, right?
Yes, sir.
Big 3.
I
So
will be there.
I'll see you down there for that. That'll be a good time. This will be your first time down there, right?
Yes, sir. First time would be awesome.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy it. We have a good time down there. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I grew up in Georgia, so I've spent quite a bit of time in Florida. I like
Georgia
Florida.
boy. Okay. Very
Oh, yeah.
cool. Brady,
Yep.
you got anything to add?
I'm good. Just sitting here listening, taking it in.
Now, you guys, I saw a post that you made the other day. You've got something new coming, something secret squirrelish. Is that something you talk about yet?
I don't think it's been announced yet, so you just got to stay tuned.
How
Well,
soon? How soon till it's announced?
Should be later today.
Later today?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I think we should go ahead and talk about it on the podcast because this isn't going to go out until
See coming out. So
Till
yeah, so the big push right
late
now is we're launching a whole new website. So making it easier for everybody to get through and find instructions, find manuals, find reticles, get in contact with us. So we kind of reworked over the last 2 or 3 months our entire website. So we're finally launching that today, and then we also have some of our new products that will be up on there. We have our micro red dot and our magnifier that are out now that are going to be up on there. We also have some new mounting systems, some QD rings and QD mounts that will be out there too. So kind of a new launch of some products and a new launch of the website. So
very cool.
So you guys, so your micro red dot, is that the one for the pistol?
No, that one's not like an RMR style. That one right there. There's one of the very first ones Marty's got. So it's our micro red dot with our 3x magnifier. Those are now available to the public, selling those on the website. And then we have our QD mounts that will be 1-inch 30 mil and 34 mil rings that we'll be selling.
Nice.
Yep. And I took these out. I took these out too this weekend, and was getting them sighted in as well. Red dots. Is there a different procedure or anything for sighting in red dots?
Nope. Pretty much the same, but on your red dots, obviously, kind of like the first and second focal plane, you kind of want a red dot with the smallest minute of angle as possible. Like some of them are like, what is it, 3 to 5 minute angle dot, and then some of them are down to like 1.
We do a 2 MOA dot in ours because of that. We want it to be tight and precise. Realistically, you're not shooting, especially without the magnifier, you're not shooting out past 50 to 100 yards with the red dot anyway. So we want a small enough red dot to be accurate and precise, but yet big enough that it's a quick acquisition. You can pick it up and find it really quickly. So we settled in at 2 MOA for our red dot.
Yeah,
that's a good size.
The intensity obviously can change that a little bit too. I always put mine down on the lowest. I like it to be really small.
Yeah.
And it's
most people just immediately.
It's still easily picked up too on that. Even on a bright day, you can still see it on that.
Yeah.
That faint setting.
Everybody cranks it to the highest power, which I always go to the highest or the lowest that you can actually still see for whatever application you're doing, and that's going to give you the clearest and crispest dot. So, because it will, obviously you got it on the brightest setting in a dark room, it's going to starburst on you a little bit. So you want to match up your brightness setting to kind of the light conditions.
Goes back to the old saying, aim small, miss small.
Right.
There you go.
Exactly.
I think I read that on somebody's website. Maybe Charlie Mike's.
Yep.
So your website is charliemikeprecision.com?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then they'll take you to all our social media stuff too, Facebook and YouTube and all that.
Okay. The YouTubers.
Yep.
So speaking of Instagram and social medias, I've got a giveaway that I'm going to be doing right now. This is what month is this? So last month's September, so August. I think it's July's Tactical Squirrel box that I'm giving away. You guys know which one it is. I mentioned it a couple episodes ago, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go to Smith & Bradley, the watch company, where we had Jeremy Smith on, and we did a post on his Instagram page of me and the watch, and there was like 2 inset photos too showing different levels of luminosity for that thing. And you're supposed to go there and leave your comments and say Leadhead was here. And the winner of that Tactical Squirrel monthly box is it's D-E-E-R-E Fisherman. Deer E Fisherman? Or he just spelt deer wrong. I don't know. You're the winner, Deer Fisherman. So shoot me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com, and give me your contact information. I'll forward that on to Casey over at Antiris, which he's going to be in charge of getting you that Tactical Squirrel monthly subscription box. So congratulations, and thanks to everybody who took part in that. As I mentioned last week's episode, we're going to be giving away another Tactical Squirrel box, and that one is going to be a random pick from iTunes. Go there, leave us some feedback, rate us, and I'm going to randomly pick one of you guys who goes and does that to win the next Tactical Squirrel monthly subscription box. All right. I forgot to thank our sponsors in the beginning of the show. So, Brady, sorry about that.
I see how it is.
Good thing you're on the show, right? So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to thank all our sponsors. Frontier Tactical. Check them out at frontiertactical.com. They're the makers of the Warlock system. Who's playing the drums back there?
What's that?
I said, who was playing the drums? I don't know. Frontier Tactical, you guys go check them out. The Warlock system, the multi-caliber adapter that you can put on your AR-15 that will allow you to shoot up to 90 different calibers now, I believe it is. And they even have their own line of AR-15s now, the FT line that comes standard with the Warlock system on it. So you can go ahead and get your AR-15 set up to shoot up to 90 different calibers right out of the box. Check them out at frontiertactical.com. And Modern Spartan Systems. Optimize your firearms with Modern Spartan Systems. They're lubes, oils, greases, cleaners, and they even have engine products. They got a TVT engine oil additive that you guys know that I've been adding to the lead sled, and I'm over 307,000 miles using that TVT engine oil additive. Makes it run smoother, quieter, and it has increased the gas mileage as well. So you guys check them out, modernspartansystems.com. Have you used that engine oil additive yet, either one of you guys?
I haven't. I'm actually going to put it in my truck on my next oil change.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna love it, man. What kind of truck you got?
I have a Dodge diesel.
Dodge diesel. How many miles you got on it?
Just went over 35,000.
You went over 35,000? Okay. Yeah.
I'm not even broke in yet.
Yeah, you're gonna like it. It's gonna definitely, of course, with a diesel, I mean, you're getting pretty good gas mileage anyway, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So just keep an eye on it. You're probably gonna notice a difference in your gas mileage too.
I think it took me 2 tanks of gas to drive to Charlotte, Arizona, which is like 14 hours.
Oh wow, it's not bad at all. Of course, those are big tanks too, aren't they?
It's a 28 gallon, I think.
28. Okay. The lead sled's about 25 gallons. I got a 98 Yukon.
Oh
yeah. It does pretty good.
yeah. Oh yeah.
How are you?
I use that.
Go ahead.
I use that accuracy oil in my barrels. It actually improves your grouping after you get it sucked in there.
I was going to ask
impressive.
you, you're using their products also. That's good in your rifles. Have you noticed an increase in the speed also?
Yes, it increases your muzzle velocity, and like I said, it probably tightened your group up. At 100 yards, on one of the guns, it tightened it up probably 1/8 of an inch.
Wow, very good. I haven't done the measurements on mine, but I know that after I started using it, my groups did get tighter on it.
Yep.
So they've got speaking of Modern Spartan Systems, they've got a competition, not really a competition, but what's it called a challenge? That's what it's called. They've issued a challenge. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't. I think Marcus sent it to me. I haven't checked it out yet.
Well, here, I'll check it out with you. We'll do it together. So it says, hello, shooters. You are formally invited to both take part in a massive nationwide test emphasizing accuracy improvement and extend this invitation to your friends, fellow shooters, and followers. Basically, what they're doing is if you go and you sign up for this accuracy test, use their products, and he's got it all laid out. He's got some PDF forms here that go through and tell you how to apply their stuff, what to do. Shoot your gun before using it, shoot your gun after using it. Take pictures, send them in to him. Follow his procedures there, and they're giving away prizes. What the prizes are yet, he's not announced, but I'm sure there's going to be some nice stuff that they're going to be giving away. But that's just a fun thing to do. Go out and see how accurate you can be, and use their product, and you definitely are going to, like Charlie said, I mean, you're going to see a difference in your grouping and your accuracy. So they probably should have that on their website. So if you guys want to take part, it's called the Big Accuracy Test. Look for that on their website. If you're interested in taking part in that, email me. I'll send you the information, talkinglead@gmail.com. RITON Opitcs, the official optics of, Brady?
Talking Lead.
There you go. And as you just heard, they are getting ready to release a whole new website. They've got some new mounting options for you guys, some quick detach mounts, which I'm going to make sure you get those in the mail to me. Definitely going to put those on my guns. And how are the rangefinders coming, Brady?
Nothing yet. We're still playing with a few different ones, so we'll keep you posted as we get closer.
Okay, so you're still working on them. That's good. That's good.
Yep.
And then, of course, the binoculars. I'm just still head over heels in love with your binoculars. I was using those for my range finding spotting scope as I was shooting this weekend on my red dots and my shorter stuff. With the 5x25, I didn't need it. Obviously, it was doing better than the binoculars. But man, those binoculars are freaking crystal clear. Have you seen them yet, Charlie?
Oh yeah, I saw them up in Charlotte.
Jeez,
Very
they're
nice.
Amazing. Love those things.
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
about your binoculars, Brady.
So the first ones we came out with, they're an HDD glass, which is high density, not high definition, but high density extra dispersion glass. So you get a really, really super crisp, super clear image. We did a 10x42. Our kind of aim for that was lightweight, durable, really aimed at the hunting market and being able to strap them on and hike around all day. It's a magnesium alloy frame, so it's super lightweight, super strong. I mean, we parked Humvees on top of them. We've pretty much done anything you can think to do them, to break them. They're super strong. So that was kind of our first offering, is a 10x42, and then we're working on some other ones that we'll talk to you guys about a little bit later.
And your Mod 7 line, did you come out with any more in your Mod 7s? I know that last time we talked, you were in the works on...
Yep, we haven't released it yet for purchasing, but we're going to be putting it on the website here pretty soon. We have a 1:5x24 illuminated, really aimed at what we're calling our quick acquisition reticle. We've had a lot of our 3-gun guys using it in the last 2 or 3 months, putting it through its paces. So that one will be out here soon. So we'll definitely reach out to you and get that release date up.
Very cool. Very cool.
Hey, Brett.
Yep, go ahead.
Hey, are you going to be doing a spotting scope?
Yeah, so I think me and Marty kind of talked about that last time a little bit. We've been testing and doing some different spotting scope research and development on them. So the biggest thing for us is we won't release anything until it's ready. We have an unlimited lifetime warranty. We don't ever want anybody to ever have to use it. So for us, until we can put it through its paces and beat the hell out of it and get it exactly the way we want it, we kind of hold off. So we have a lot of new stuff in the works over the next 3 to 6 months that we'll be releasing. So that will definitely be on the agenda.
Nice. And what are you looking at putting reticles in there to match the scopes also?
So yeah, that's another part of what we looked at, is do we want kind of just a blank one? And we've been doing some testing on doing some like either mill or doing some ranging reticles in there too, so to help call distances and help with stuff like that. So we're looking at kind of the hunting and or the tactical versions of doing a few of them. So
yeah, if you could get one that would match the reticle and the scopes, that would be awesome for calling wind and stuff. And I don't know what different reticles you're looking at for your scopes yet, but
yeah, to be able to match those two up makes life a lot easier.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
There you go. I mean, you got a request from a professional sniper right there, man.
Right.
Maybe you come out with a Charlie Melton spotting scope.
CMP spotting scope.
There you go.
Right.
Very nice. X Steel Targets.
X Steel Targets.
The best, most affordable AR 500 steel targets on the market today are at xsteeltargets.com. They've got for your recreational shooter, they've got for your law enforcement military, they've got for your competition shooters, you name it, they've got a target to fit your needs at xsteeltargets.com. And if you don't see one on there that fits your needs, get in touch with Bud because he can custom make them for you. AR 500 steel targets, X Steel Targets. Boom. Glock, the official carry of Talking Lead. That's right. I rock the Glock, Charlie. I do the Glock 23 and the Glock 27. Gen 4 and a Gen 3. The 27 is a Gen 4 and the 23 is a Gen 3. But since I've shot the Gen 5s, thinking about trading up. They're really good shooting guns.
Nice.
What do you carry? What's your preference on carry?
Me?
Charlie?
I'm a SIG guy.
You like the SIG, huh?
I do have a Glock. I have a Glock 17 Gen 4.
What's your preferred SIG?
I carry the 226. Right now I have a customized 226, but I'm actually fixing to get me one of those 320 X5 models. I shot that up in show low. I'm pretty impressed with it.
Yeah. So are you not afraid that the drop test? Have you seen the drop test where they go off?
Yeah, I did see that. I don't think the X5 does it. I think it's just on the regular model. But I try not to drop my gun.
I love it.
That's funny. All right, guys, that does it for another episode of the Talking Lead Show. Charlie, Brady, I appreciate you guys being our professors for the day in our part 2 of the optics class.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely, and we're looking forward to having you guys back for part 3, where we're going to get into even more over my head kind of stuff. As far as shooting goes and range. Who's knocking? That's killing me. Who's knocking?
No, that was me, sir.
Okay. I thought somebody was like knocking on your door.
Like that?
Go answer your door, man.
It might be Memphis. He might be wanting in.
It could be. And as always, lead heads, keep your loved ones close.
And your firearms
close.
That's probably as good as we're going to get with a delay. So
Yeah.
we'll go with that.
It's tough.
And your basic principles of shooting closer.
And never stop chasing your pursuit of precision.